All right, let me start by asking if there are any questions today. Like last time, I'll be happy to entertain any questions that anyone has. And I want to get to this before we cover any of the other material that I was considering covering today. So please, if you have questions over any previous lab assignments or anything we had covered before, let me know. I'll give you a minute if you are going to type it in. So just let me know if you have any questions. Yes, we are starting Bootstrap today, unless you have any questions. And I'd be glad to answer any questions before we get into Bootstrap. All right. If you do have questions, please type them in. I'm going to start the intro to this. One of our goals as web developers is to make our pages and sites look good in a variety of situations with a variety number of clients. And that whole thing is called responsive web development or responsive web design. If we were to Google that, responsive web design, we get a lot of information. Let's look to see if there's any examples. Right? Here's the site. And again, notice how the grid is fluid. At this width of the screen, there's 4 columns in the grid. This width of the screen, there's 3, 2, finally you get down to just 1. It's a great example of responsive web design because if you can imagine this being a phone, this looks good. And if you imagine, well, you don't have to imagine this being a desktop, this is a desktop. One feature, by the way, I like to point out within Chrome is if you go to Developers Tools, you can choose to, more tools, Developers Tools. Oh, over here. You can toggle device toolbar. So you could say, all right, how will this look like on a phone that is 400 by 845 pixels? How will this look like on an iPhone 12 Pro? How will this look like on a Samsung Galaxy? I think that's the phone I have. And so on. So this is a valuable tool in testing your pages. Now there's a lot of techniques, and we talked about some of them in CISS232, media queries, responsive techniques. But what we're going to talk about is Bootstrap today. And Bootstrap is a tool that helps you to develop responsive websites. If you think about it, there's common elements on almost every website, right? There's a banner, there's navigation, There's items that you want to place on the screen. There are all kinds of other things that exist, footers, and so on. Grids are very popular in web design. So there's a lot of things that have in common. What Bootstrap is it's a CSS file that contains classes for commonly used things. All right. And that way you can apply those classes to your things on your pages that correspond to them, and you get them styled in a effective and consistent manner. So for a Bootstrap example, here we notice that there is a heading. There are 3 columns in this. If we make it smaller, it switches over down to 2 in 1 column, finally 1 column. So if we were to view this on different platforms, it would look good from a desktop machine to a tablet to a phone. And even phones that weren't particularly high-end phones, this would look good in. So Bootstrap is a set of styles. It does come with a JavaScript file, and it does use jQuery, but the main event feature is the styles, the cascading style sheet that's provided. Those of you who are taking or will take CISS232, ASP.NET with Razor Pages uses Bootstrap sort of as a default styling. So keep all these things in mind if you're going to be taking that class or if you've already had it. So let's look for a Bootstrap tutorial. I know there's one here. Oh, here we go. All right. Here's our first Bootstrap page. We can try it ourselves. If you notice, what do you need to make Bootstrap work? Well, actually, this is a version that uses jQuery and not uses JavaScript and not jQuery. What do we have instead? We have our pages, and we bring into our pages the Bootstrap CSS and JavaScript files. These files are minimized. What do I mean by minimized? I mean, if you look at them, there's no blank spaces. So they're meant to be machine read and not human read. If you want to read them, you would pick the version that's not minimized, which would be the same name, but not minimized. Not with min in here. And if we were to look at that, it looks like this, which again is virtually impossible for a human to read. I almost get a headache just looking at this code. But what they've done is they've removed all the spaces. So if you're working on a site that has a lot of requests, you're cutting down on the quantity of stuff that has to be delivered, on the size of the files that you're delivering. If you want to see the full Bootstrap file, you would go like this. Get rid of the min, and there you can see. There's some styles. Media query, some default styles for the margin, default styles for an HR tag, default styles for an H6, H1, so on down the line. Now, to get those styles to work on your page, you have to apply the classes to it. Now, one thing that we don't emphasize in CISS 216, but it is true, is that you can apply multiple classes to an individual HTML element. And if you think about it in the real world, that makes sense. You know, a person fits into many classes. I am a resident of Ohio. So that could be one of my classes if you're thinking about people. I am a professor at Loring Community College. That's the second class I belong to. I am someone with a valid driver's license. That's the third thing. All right. So classes are not like IDs. IDs are unique and they uniquely identify something. A class, however, you can have multiple classes. So in this case, our header, they define these classes on them. Now, I don't expect you to understand what all of these mean, but you can sort of get an idea of what some of these mean. Text center means it's going to be centered. Text white, it means that the text is going to be white, and so on. The background is going to be a primary color. And that's why the heading looks like this. Now, they use div tags in many of these examples and not heading tags. That's one thing I wish that they would change, right? I wish they would change these examples to use the proper HTML5 tags, all right? So let's slow down a bit and let's look at how we can implement some of these individual things into our site. Getting started. I think we already looked at that one. Here are some of the advantages: easy to use, responsive, mobile first approach. In other words, it makes the style look good on a mobile device first, and then it handles desktop. And that's a better way to design things. Let's look at some of the features. The first feature we're going to look at is what's called the Jumbotron. The Jumbotron is sort of a big header on the top of your page. All right. So I'm going to go and I'm going to apply this to a page that I've created, one of the pages I use in CISS 216. Maybe you remember it. It's a page for a hypothetical travel agency. And there's no current style on this page. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in to the page, put in the style on the page. I'll put in the Bootstrap stuff on the page. So let me open up this in Studio Code. And this is a matter of just putting these links in. So I'm going to copy these 3 lines and put them in my head section on this page. Save it. And I go and view the page. Change it slightly. It gave it sort of a more cleaner, modern look. All right, change from the default font that we saw before of Times New Roman. It uses a sans serif font. And already we see that these defaults are taking hold, and we're getting a good, clean, consistent styling for this page. Let's do the first thing though. Let's take care of the headers. What I want to do is I want to look at a few things. I want to make a grid out of these 4 paragraphs. I want to style the header, style the nav, and style the footer. Right? So this, we're going to use these classes. I'm going to create on the header, I'm going to put in this as a class of the header. I want to view that page. We get that style like that. Default background color, color of white, bigger size font. Let's look at what all these classes mean. Look for Bootstrap class reference. Here's a list of all of them. And if we click on it, we can see what they mean. What was the one that we had? We had rounded. What does that do? Well, it puts a rounding around the image or whatever other element. What are some of the other ones that we used? We used P5. P1 through whatever number. What that's going to do is that's going to make a padded div. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be how that's going to look like with that much padding. What's the other one? BG primary. BG primary is going to be the primary color on the page. In this case, by default, it's going to be blue. Now, let's say if I wanted to change that. All right. How to change the Bootstrap primary colors. And it shows you how to do that. All right. We're not going into that much depth in it. I just want you to be familiar with Bootstrap and what it can do and the principles of how it does it. So that's how you can change the default colors of this. All right. Lastly, text white, pretty obvious. The text is going to be white. Rounded is going to be the fact that it's going to be rounded. So if we look, we have our heading done this way. What if there was a paragraph in the heading? What would that look like? And again, by default, that's what it gives us. So it looks pretty good so far. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at changing the nav in Bootstrap. So look for Bootstrap nav bar. And what we're going to do is this is a gray horizontal nav bar that becomes vertical on small screens. And again, we can look up if we want to see the precise meaning of these things. I'm going to have my nav. I'm going to put on my nav these styles. One thing I do not like about Bootstrap, but the benefits kind of outweigh the downside, is you have to introduce some extra HTML elements, which strictly speaking don't provide any additional content. Like in this case, you add a div to be a container. So I'm making every one of these a nav item, class of nav item, and I'm making every one of these class of nav link. The challenge in Bootstrap is understanding these code and these classes and like most languages, what you do often, you will get to know. And other things you look up. The other challenge is what if you want to override the defaults? Again, it's built to make certain things easy, and therefore to change other things and to change defaults, you have to do a little work. All right. Obviously, something's wrong here because we do have our navigation, but they are lined up side by side. Let's look. Oh, I put the div on it. Okay, that's not what ours looks like. In the interest of time, I'm going to just copy this over to see if it fixes the issue. And it did. So whatever I did wrong, pasting that in made it work. Let's see. Let's undo this. It's a little frustrating. And UL goes with an N. You know. Well, I do apologize for this. I can't, I'm drawing a blank here. So what I'm going to do is restore the code that I pasted, and we'll just go with that as the example. It's always a problem with running these is when you run into like what's supposed to work doesn't work. then you have some troubleshooting to do. All right, anyhow, there's our links and all that. And after a certain size, the menu becomes vertical, which is that responsive aspect that we want. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to make a grid. So we will review how to make a grid. We have a set of divs that we're going to use around each thing. And there's a list of let's try this. Put a div. I won't use a div, we'll use a section. I'll put container fluid. Should still work with section. And this is going to add up to 12 or less. So let's go and put these around this. This is going to take up three columns and use the primary background color. And I'll get rid of these other columns. And I'll go and add as many of these as I want to. So let's add 8 of them. I think that's 8. Right. proofread that. Now I have 8 changes to make, getting rid of the extra quote. Actually, what I want to do is this, I think. I want to make the row contain 4 of them. I don't want to put the end section here. Because I want these to be a row. So I want on the largest size screens, I want this to have 4 rows side by, or 4 columns side by side. So I put those 4 in a row. That was my mistake. 1, 2, 3, 4. I do have to confess, I'm not terribly familiar with Bootstrap. I've used it some, but not a whole lot. So I'm probably making some rookie mistakes. There we go. Columns are 4 by 4, or 2 rows of 4 columns. And if they reach a certain size, they drop down below. Now, what does that 3 mean? It means it takes up 3 columns. All right. You get 12 columns going across in your grid. Again, that's a limitation, but it would be a pretty involved and complex grid to take up more than 3 columns. You should be able to make this large. I need to do it to all of them, I think, and I probably didn't put in the right value for that. But we do have our grid, and it is responsive. Again, my goal is to introduce you to this, to make you experts in it. Are there any questions about this or anything else? I will post this example. I encourage you all, if you're not up to date on assignments, I encourage you all to drop me a line and let me know how I can help you get caught up again. All right. We're soon going to be branching into different topics. I have to look exactly at the schedule to see what we're going to do, but we are going to be branching pretty soon into some different topics. And I want to close as much of the old business as we can before we go forward. All right, are there any questions now? Okay, I'm going to post this. I'm going to take a few minutes, and by 10 o'clock, I will be up in the WebEx room to answer any other questions that you have. All right, if not, then we'll see you next week.